StrayAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of wait for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is why you are who you are. I'm going to break this down and explain you to you here in today's episode. But before we do that, let me tell everybody, I send out a text message every single day free of charge that is guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day. We call this message the Daily Motivation, and I want to send it to your phone tomorrow morning. So what I need you to do to cooperate with me in my efforts is to text me right now at my number, which is 305-384-6894. And every morning when the Daily Motivation goes out, because you're a member of my text community, you will be receiving this message free of charge straight to your phone tomorrow and every day moving forward for as long as I decide to keep sending it. Text me at that number. It is down below in the description. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where I do all my coaching. That's the place where all my courses are. That's the place where you get all of my deepest and most in-depth training. You must be a member of the university to get access to things like Bulletproof Mindset, 30 Days of Discipline, ASAP Confidence, Content Machine, Work on Your Game System, Business Builder Framework, and a whole bunch more. We got 40 plus courses in there, all my best trainings, and you can get access to me as your direct coach, and you get my 2 physical mailings that I send out every month to your physical mailbox, the Bulletproof Bulletin and the Black Book. You must be a member of the university to get any of the things that I just mentioned. And you'll get all of the things that I just mentioned as a member of the university. You do that by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. So with all that out the way, let's get into the topic. Why you are who you are. So today's episode is really about self-assessment that you can do by looking into certain aspects of your consistent habits and understand, because of these habits, based on these habits, why you are getting the results that you are getting, or why you're not getting the results that you're not getting. So you can use the insights that you get from today's episode to decipher why you are in your current situation and where you need to go next. If you need to go anywhere, hey, maybe you're in a position you want to stay exactly where you're at. Maybe you need to change. You need to go somewhere different. Based on what you hear today, you can at least know what direction to look in. Let's put it that way. Point number 1. Today's topic, once again, is why you are who you are. Number 1, what you are reading and studying. This is one of the main reasons why you are in the situation that you're in right now. What are you reading and studying? Now, for some of you, let's keep it real here, which is what we do at Work on Your Game. We have no choice but to keep it real. Some of you, the answer is nothing. Some of you ain't reading anything and you're not studying anything. So therefore, it's impossible for you to grow. Remember that all growth after puberty ends, which is somewhere in the early 20s, let's just say, for human beings. After that, all growth is voluntary, meaning you must do something on purpose to grow. So if you are not picking up a book and you are not on purpose studying anything, then you have not grown since you finished school. And there's a study that came out years ago that said when people finish their formal schooling, whether it's high school, college, middle school, whatever, that most people, over 90% of people, never, ever again for the rest of their lives pick up a book and read it on their own volition after school ends. Now, this study was done, I heard about this back in like the 90s, 20, 30 years ago, but those numbers are still 100% true. They haven't changed. Why? Because people are who they are. So if you are not putting anything useful into your brain on purpose, well, here's the flip side of that. Nothing useful can come out of it. If you're not putting anything useful into you, then nothing useful can come out of you. If you are serious about your profession and where you are going in your profession, you should always be in the process of consuming something on a level of a course, a training program, at least a book that is designed to help you do your thing better and on a deeper level than you are currently doing it. You can have more than one going at the same time. You don't have to just read just one book at one time and not be consuming anything else. So for example, I'm usually consuming material I'll be consuming material that's more entertainment and enjoyment material, while at the same time consuming something that is more for professional development and continued education. I'll have both going at the same time. I'm not saying I'm listening to one of them in one ear and reading the other one while I'm looking at the screen. I don't mean that. I mean, there may be moments when, all right, let me listen to this entertainment one for a little while because that's where I'm at. And then I'll turn it off and I'll go into the professional development thing that I'm studying at the moment. But you don't have to just have one going at once. You can have multiple things going at the same time. I'm always reading more than one book at a time, whether that's a book that I'm looking at physically with my eyes or an audio book that I'm consuming. So I could be reading someone's memoir, for example, that's telling the story of their career, while at the same time reading a book that is about how to do better and more effective marketing. And understand there's a difference in levels between reading / consuming, and studying. Those are not the same thing. Reading something is you pick up a book, you read it, you go through all the pages, you see what it says, and you're like, that was a great book. You put it down and it starts collecting dust on your shelf and you never pick the book up again. Studying, on the other hand, all of you went to school, right? When you were studying, how was that different from reading? Just think about that, your experience as a student when you studied, anytime that you did study, some of us did it more than others. What was the experience? You went through the material, but you went through the material over and over and over again to make sure you really understood it, to make sure you really got it, to make sure you actually knew the material, at least you quote unquote knew it enough that you could retain it long enough that you could go to class and take the test and pass it, because you had to pass a certain amount of tests at a certain level in order to even graduate, get a degree and move on to the next grade or the next level, whatever it happened to be. So studying is you taking in the material over and over and over again until you knew it well enough that you could retain it, even when you didn't have the material in front of you. All right, isn't that how you studied? It's not the same as reading. Reading is you just went through it, you heard it, you saw it, or I saw that video on YouTube. I read that book. But could you regurgitate any of it? Could you give it back? Could you teach it to somebody else? Remember the levels of expertise. You don't really know something until you've done it. You don't really know it until you can teach it. You don't truly know it until you can get paid to teach it. What level are you at? And understand, to get to the level where you get paid to teach something, you have to study a subject. You have to really, really know a subject. You have to truly know the subject in order to get somebody to pay you to teach it, because you have to be able to demonstrate and show that you know that material so well that you can teach it to another person on a level that they couldn't do it on their own. So when you study, again, you're reviewing the material multiple times so that you have a deep understanding to feasibly teach somebody else without having to every minute refer back to the material. That's different than simply going over the material one time, reading it one time, hearing it one time. So many of you are great at consuming, but you are terrible at studying. And some of you thought that when you left school, that was the last time you ever need to study. And hey, you might be right. If you don't want to be an expert, you don't have to study anything if you don't want to. But if you're serious about your profession, I'm here to let you know that your studying did not end when you got out of school. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is why you are who you are. Number 2, who you associate and spend time with and listen to. Who are your associates? Remember that the law of association says you become the average of the people that you spend the most time with. In other words, who's in your circle? This is the question for the second point. Who is in your circle? Who are your friends? Who are your associates? Who are the people who you allow to influence you with their energy, with their words, with their thoughts, with their ideas, with their knowledge, with their advice, with whatever information they think they have? And understand that your circle does not necessarily have to be your personal friends, but your personal friends are part of the equation because you probably engage with them on a consistent basis. So somebody can be in your circle simply because you are, harkening back to point number 1, you are studying their material on a consistent basis to the point that you are spending more time with that person than you are with people who you actually know in person. So for example, if I buy your book, let's say any of you out there who's written a book, and I buy your book or your books, or I sign up for your courses, and I'm consuming your material so much on a daily basis that I'm spending more time with you than I am with people who I actually know in real life, then you become part of my circle. You become one of those people who I am becoming more like simply because I'm spending more time with you than I am with others. So whoever you're spending the most time with, you're becoming that person. And understand it doesn't have to be in person. It's just whoever you're consuming, and you're allowing whatever they have to say or whatever they're sharing to get into your brain. Again, that could be somebody on the internet. Let's just say you find some YouTube channel that you like, or some TikToker who you think's funny, and you just go through all their material, and you're just spending hours a day going through one individual's material. In that period, that person is part of your circle. They're part of your inner circle because you're spending more time with them than you are most everybody else. So whatever influence they're giving, you're getting it, positive or negative, or somewhere in between, you're getting it. So understand that this law of association thing is not limited to your personal contacts. It is not limited to people whose hands you shake. It is whatever you're consuming. So you spend a whole day, your favorite musician on Spotify, you're listening to Taylor Swift all day, or you're listening to Lil Wayne all day. That person, whatever they're talking about, that is becoming, it is influencing you, and you are becoming, through the law of association, more like that individual, and that message, whatever they're saying in their songs, is connecting to you. Are you listening to somebody's podcast all day? You're listening to their audio books. You're going through their courses. You're reading their books. All right, that person's influence, is having a strong effect on you because you're allowing them to influence you because they're giving their message to you, and in lieu of anything else you could be spending time with. So if you're spending more time with them, all right, that's part of the association. This is why I tell you that when you choose your mentors, first of all, you want to choose someone who you feel like could actually help you. I never even really say that. I'm assuming that you get that part. You're not going to choose a mentor that can't really help you. But also you want to choose someone who has a deep enough vault of material that you will never run out of material to study from that individual. They have plenty of material with which you can engage. So they have to have a deep enough vault of stuff that you don't run out of stuff to take with them. Remember, it says, law of association, you become the average of people with whom you spend the most time. So through the internet and media, again, you can spend time with someone even if you don't actually know them, and they don't have to be spending any time with you. This is the good news about the law of association, because I often hear from people who say, well, Dre, I get the whole concept of the law of association, but I don't have people around me in my life who are those type of people. I don't have people around me who are growth minded, or they're not entrepreneurial. I want to be an entrepreneur. They don't really want to move forward and do anything different, but I want to do a whole lot of different things. What am I supposed to do because I don't know any of these people? Well, here's what you do. You can get on the internet. One of the great things about the internet is that many people who are high-level individuals relative to you are out here putting a bunch of material out every single day, and you can easily, very, very easily, with very little friction, consume as much of their material as you want. So you are not limited to just the people who you know in person, especially if the people you know in person are really not high-level individuals. So any of you who's ever had that issue, and I've heard from many of you who say that that's your issue, I just solved it for you. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is why you are who you are. Number 3, how you invest your time. Episode 609, we talked about the 5 forms of investment: time, money, attention, energy, and focus. Understand that even though there are 5 forms of investment, one of them is superior to the other 4 put together, and that is time. Time is more valuable than money, attention, energy, and focus all put together. Why? Because you can run out of money, attention, energy, and focus and get more back the next day. You run out of time, your life's over. They call that death. You run out of time, they're planning your funeral. Okay? Time is your most valuable resource by far. When you run out of time, the entire game is over. So with that said, what's your daily schedule looking like? Because your daily schedule is simply where your time's going. You don't have a daily schedule. If you're not using a calendar, then that means you are allowing your time to just go by flippantly and in a very cavalier type of way, which means you're not even taking your time seriously, meaning you're not taking your life seriously, which means nobody else should take you seriously. What are you doing with your time? How did you spend your last 72 hours? What did you accomplish in the last 72 hours of significance? I'm not talking you emptied the dishwasher. What did you accomplish in the last 72 hours? If you say that you're ambitious and you say that you have big goals and you want to do these great things, and listen, I get the DMs and the text messages from people every day telling me all these great things that they want to do. Okay, are you scheduling out your time? Are you even using the calendar? Do you even know where your time is going? Could you document what happened in the last 72 hours of your life? Someone who didn't know you looked at your calendar, looking backwards or forward at your calendar, or just looking at today. Could they guess what areas of your life you are really serious about and where you're headed in your life and in your career? Would it be congruent with what you say you're doing? So if I looked at your calendar and I tried to guess what you were serious about in your life and where you're headed, and then you said what you were serious about and where you're headed, would my answer be the same as your answer? Just based on me looking at your calendar, not based on listening to you talk, based on looking at your calendar. Does your calendar reflect what you are serious about? If the answer is no, then you got some adjustments that you need to make. Is your calendar a reflection of your priorities? Could someone even guess what career you're in just by looking at your calendar? They even guess what you do for a living. Remember, I was in his business coaches program, and he shared how he was talking to his coach, and his coach asked him, okay, what are your main priorities in life? And the guy said, oh, that's easy. My main priorities are my family and my kids and my wife, my family. And that coach said to my coach, he said, okay, your wife and your kids are your priority. All right, I want you to go grab your calendar and I want you to go grab your checkbook. And we're going to look at the last 30 to 60 days and we're going to see if your calendar and your checkbook reflect the priority that you claim that you have. And this coach, he goes on to tell the story. He said he was immediately embarrassed when his coach said that to him because he knew that his checkbook and his calendar were not reflective of what he was saying out of his mouth. That he was saying one thing, but he was living another way. His calendar, his checkbook did not reflect the priority that he stated he had. His priorities was going in some other directions. And I'm bringing that up to share with you all. If you're saying your priority is one thing, okay, let's look at your calendar and let's look what you're doing with your money, because a lot of humans have a strong emotional attachment to money. So that's why money is a useful measuring stick here. Let's look at your calendar. Let's look at your checkbook. And many of you don't write checks, but let's look at your bank statements or your credit card statements and let's see, where's your money going? I could tell your priorities if I look at that. Look at what you're doing with your money and look at your calendar. I can tell pretty much what you're about. Now, if what you say you're about and then where your money's going and what you're doing with your time are not congruent with each other, well, you got some adjustments to make, right? So what about you? This is what you need to be asking yourself. What's my calendar looking like? What are my credit card and bank statements looking like? Do they reflect what I'm serious about in my life? If the answer is no, good news is you can do something about it because now I'm making you conscious of it. And when you're conscious of things, you can get intentional about them and you can enact change. And now you're unconscious about things. You don't even realize what's going on. Well, you can't do anything. So the good news is you can do something about this. So let's recap today's class, which is why you are who you are. And again, this is about some self-assessment that you need to do by looking at certain aspects of your consistent habits and understand why you're in the situation that you're in life, whether you want it or you don't. Number one, what are you reading and studying? Remember that everything within must come out. So if you're not putting anything useful in, well, nothing useful can come out. All right, simple as that. So what are you reading and studying? And remember that reading and consuming something is not the same as studying it. When you were in school, think about how you studied stuff. Now think about when you read something like a magazine or Instagram caption, you don't go over it over and over again. But when you studied, you went over something over and over and over again until you knew that you had it. Are you studying in life or are you simply consuming? Point number two, who are you associating and spending time with? In other words, who's in your circle? Remember, the law of association says you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. Good news is if you don't have humans around you who you know in person that will elevate your level, you can spend time with somebody through the content that they put out, because high level people, many of us, are putting out a ton of content for which you can just consume that. And they can be your associations. Your association can be 5 people on the internet who you never even met in person. So you are not limited to the people who you know. So if you got family members or associates around you in your neighborhood who ain't shit, that's okay. You don't have to associate with them. You could associate more with people who are putting real game out there in the world, like Baldwin and Work on Your Game University. Number 3, how you invest your time. Time is the most valuable resource that you have. Money is the one that we're most emotionally attached to. So look at your calendar, look at your bank statements, look at your credit card statements, and ask yourself, do these reflect my priorities? Simple as that. And this is a yes or no question. If the answer is no, then you need to make some adjustments. All that said, text me, tell me the best idea, best point that you got from today's masterclass. My number is 305-384-6894. And secondly, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That is where you can get into my coaching program. You get access to my courses like 30 Days to Discipline, like ASAP Confidence, my biggest frameworks like Bulletproof Mindset, the Business Builder Framework, the Next Mission System, the Work on Your Game System. All of that is available exclusively to members of Work on Your Game University. You can join it by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all